Yeah, I think I'm pursuing this, like, lifting alone right now. I think I enjoy that more. But this morning, like, because we went to the hotel gym.
It's actually a pretty nice gym.
It's an awesome gym.
Yeah.
Aram said that. He was like, it's a good gym. And I was like,
yeah.
Well, who knows? Like, like, as I get in there,
good
I was like,
for hotel gym
right,
or just good?
That's what I mean. I'm like, well, but it is. And it's good because it's spacious, too.
Yeah.
Like, there was a lot of people in there, but I didn't feel overwhelmed and crowded.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know if anybody else, they were probably like, I felt pretty crowded. But, like, I felt good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's pretty roomy.
Yeah, but I'm also, like, used to some bodybuilding gyms where everything's super tight knit.
Oh yeah.
Like machine next to machine next to machine.
Yeah.
And like the whole vibe there is like you make do with what you got, but it's also, I mean, you get to know the people, which is also kind of cool about training in a busy place too.
Mm-hmm.
Is if you're not opposed to the idea of like meeting people.
Yeah.
Because that's fun. Because I'm a hermit. I mean, I work at home, so I mean, I don't know. I don't have to interact with any human being, I guess, technically, if I don't want to, unless my client is.
Yeah, I only go to a commercial gym once or twice a week, and then I have this rule where I usually wear like a dark headband, dark shirts, black death metal shirt, and then if anybody talks to me, I never wear that shirt again to the gym. I wore a Sorenex shirt by mistake once to the gym, and everyone's like, "Oh, are you sponsored by Sorenex or whatever?" And it wasn't that I didn't want to talk to them about anything. It's just like I don't go there to communicate with other people per se that I don't know, so I'm just like, just don't leave me alone.
If you wear anything too, because like you could even wear that, right? And someone's gonna be like,
yeah, I know, no shirts
chop
with
it
print
up.
on. Yeah.
You just got to go play.
Only ineligible death metal band writing.
Yeah, exactly. Just like where everything's kind of meshed together. It's
yeah,
like its own language.
You can't even see it's writing.
Yeah, it's like how many words are in there? Like, yeah. So, okay, so I'll go back to telling you what's up, right?
Yeah.
So basically, yeah, last year I was here, right, and interviewed a couple people that I knew, like Aram and Jimmy, and I was just picking brains because I'm a younger coach, and I'm like, I mean, I've coached for about 7 years, coming up on 8.
That's good.
Yeah, and it's been a lot of fun. I love it more than anything. It's like my absolute passion, and I just can't get away from it even if I wanted to. It's like how I want to spend my time. And, you know, Aram and I connected about 3 years back just because I think at the time we were both immersed with a lot of like the noise of the industry a little bit, like a lot of the selling aspects and a lot of just the other, just kind of the not as important stuff as the actual meat and potatoes of coaching. So when he started this, I was like, that's awesome, bro. Like, that's spot on you and spot on what I want to be part of. And I was like, this is awesome. So I want to be involved in any way I can. But then I was like, okay, what's cool for me too is to learn, pick brains, and then also highlight the people that I look up to and emulate and respect and want to keep learning from too, because I think that's the way you learn. Right?
Oh, totally. Oh, yeah.
So last year I went to your talk because a couple of my friends that I trust and respect, they were like, you really got to hear Mike Nelson. And I was like, okay, I don't know anything. Like, I'm just going to go in and who knows. And it was up in that room upstairs.
Yeah, the little room.
The little room. Yeah, and I was just like, I loved it, man. I loved everything about what you did, and I was like, this is so cool, and I was like, I gotta stay in contact. So, you know, I followed up and got on your email list, and again, I'm on 2 email lists.
Oh, who's the other person?
Mike Milner.
Oh, yeah. I just
so,
talked to him about emailing just 10 minutes ago here.
Okay,
Yeah.
I love like you too. It's just it's the way you guys write. It's the realness. It's the simplicity. And it's also just the transparently being you, dude. Like, I love that the feeling that I get when I'm reading your stuff because you're cracking jokes.
Oh,
you know,
good.
you're making up words sometimes or whatever. Or maybe they're real words and you're just way more like smart than me, right? But I'm like, either way, I'm like, I'm just gonna take it and run with that. I don't know what that meant, but I'm making good. But I love it, man, because it's like it's fun for me, and emails haven't been fun for me for a while.
Yeah.
So maybe ever, but for you and your emails, they really are. So I wanted to, and I have some like specific things that I was curious to pick your brain about.
Yeah, totally.
Because as I've thought about you, I'm like, man, there's just some things that you emulate that I'm curious where you learned it, or you know why you are the way you are. And just to highlight that, and then you know we could also share your work with my community, my audience.
Oh, perfect.
Whatever,
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean. because I think more people, as many people as possible should know the realest people out there, right?
Cool.
And I think
Thank you.
one of the realest. Yeah, so.
Appreciate it.
Dude, thanks for doing it. Yeah,
Yeah.
'cause we haven't really we've chatted back and forth on social a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's actually where I'll start maybe, because what's been fun about talking on social is every time that I connect with you, it's like you invite me right into the mix of your world, your life, what's going on, what you're working on, like your goals, and you're so in it. Like you're so just in the moment and doing you. And I think that's so cool, because for me, seeing a guy who's as knowledgeable as you are, as like, just an elite thinker, and somebody who's, you're brilliant in my mind. And so I'm like, dude, it's so cool to hear somebody like you. Even like yesterday, we were messaging about like, dumbbell PR.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm really working on getting those hundreds. And I'm just like, God, that's so cool, because I just feel like I'm already just talking to my buddy and we're just working on shit.
Yeah.
Because
totally.
And we are. I mean, I'm
Totally.
talking to a buddy, and we're all just figuring out. But I feel like people, they think that there's this level you get to where all of a sudden you're not a normal human anymore, or you're just not actually learning and doing normal things. So where did you, I guess, have you always felt that, or like when did you realize like, man, I always need to be learning and I'm just always figuring it out? And how did that work for you?
I mean, I think part of it was growing up, like, because one of the best compliments I ever got was from a client maybe like 10 years ago. We were talking, it was an in-person client at the time, and she said something, she's like, oh, well, I was never like a jock like you. And I started laughing. I'm like, dude, I was like, if you had a choice to pick people for teams like in like elementary school, like there was an argument at the end of it if I had to be on somebody's team or not. They would rather play like one person short than like have me on their team, because I literally would get hit in the face with balls because I couldn't see in 3D, which I didn't know was an issue at the time. So I had a strabismus or a lazy eye. So as a kid, I would see two objects. So if you think about how your eyes work, you have two eyes, they project an image to the back of your brain, but because of your eye position, the images are skewed just a little bit. And your brain takes those skewed images and it fuses them to create a three-dimensional image. And in my case, my right eye sits up and out too far, so the images are too skewed. So I see in double vision. It can't figure out what to do. It can't fuse the images together to create a 3D image. So the brain's solution is what's called visual suppression. It'll take one of the eye signals and drop it. So it goes, aha, I figured out the solution. I'll just take one of those images and just get rid of it. I'll ignore it. So I can see fine out of my left eye, I can see fine out of my right eye, but when my eyes go to work together, the images are too far apart, so it'll suppress the image from one eye. So what happens is you drop from binocular to monocular. So in like softball, hated softball, because like the worst thing for me to do is to stand in the outfield and watch a ball come towards me, knowing that it's coming towards me, but I'm looking up at the sky, so all other frame of reference is gone, and 50% of the time it would just hit me in the face or the shoulder, or I would move out of the way, which as a kid is very kind of humiliating. But I didn't know any of this at the time. I just thought, some kids suck at sports, they get hit in the face with balls, that's just the way it is. So like fast forward through, I feel the rest of my life was just trying to figure out like, how do you do athletics? Like how do you do movement? Like what are different things? And the visual stuff I didn't figure out till probably like my mid-20s or so that was the thing. And then you think back, you're like, oh, ball sport's horrible. Oh, learning to drive a car scared the piss out of my parents because, vehicles coming at different depths and all that stuff. So I feel like it's just been this ongoing process to kind of solve my own issues. And then later I realized, oh, other people have other issues, maybe not to that degree or different issues. And then combine that with, my master's is in engineering, which is all just about solving problems. So I was like, oh, all this physiology stuff. Oh, I was looking to solve my own problems. Oh, this overlaps because now I can help solve other people's problems at the same time.
Oh my gosh. So it was kind of out of necessity. It's just been you. Like that.
Oh, totally.
That's your journey. That's part of you.
And in high school I just sucked. I got crushed by the empty barbell at, like a junior in high school, and I remember going to college at St. Scholastica, and I was like so excited because they had a weightlifting course for Phi Ed. So my first year there, I'm like, oh, it's so great. I'm going to learn about weightlifting finally. and the guy just checks everybody in and then just leaves. So I was like, oh shit. So I still didn't learn anything about it. So I realized at that point, I'm like, okay, maybe I should educate myself on this. Went down, took anatomy and physiology for fun, and just started educating it myself initially just to solve my own issues. And then like 5 years after that, just started training people in, 2006.
Wow. So you never got in any car accidents when you were a teenager and before the eye stuff?
I didn't, but the amount of preparation that I had to go through and how many times my parents said, we're never taking you driving again, was pretty high. So it was definitely a long process. And what's weird is, like, I didn't know anything about this at the time, so I didn't realize that this was what was going on. I didn't realize I was poor at judging distances. 'Cause it's almost like color blindness. Like if you ask someone who's colorblind and they can't see purple, like what does purple look like? They can probably kind of point to purple, but they can't describe it because they've literally have never had any frame of reference. Yeah. So as far as I can remember, I never had any frame of reference at all. So I didn't know that it was an issue. And I thinking back, I remember once my dad came back and he had some procedure with his eye, so he had an eye patch on. And I was like maybe 10 at the time. And he's like, oh, what do you kids want for dinner? And I'm like, oh, mom's out, can we have pancakes? And he's like, well, I can't really make pancakes. I'm like, what do you mean you can't make pancakes? He's like, because I would, go to flip them and it would just be too much of a mess. And that never made any sense to me because I'm like, you have one eye, you close one eye, it doesn't make any damn difference. Like, what are you talking about? So it's kind of one of those weird things where you never had any frame of reference, so you don't know any different either. And then, shocker, what things do you gravitate towards? Things that are very proprioceptive based. Oh, weightlifting, even though I sucked at it, it was something I felt like I could get better because I'm physically holding on to the implement itself instead of having to deal with objects moving through space.
That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, okay. Which is helpful for trainers, right? So one of the questions I have for trainers is, if you've got someone who, like, their whole pastime is weightlifting, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like, they hate ball sports, and their nervous system's kind of wonky, like, just ask them, like, do you like playing catch? Do you like any ball sports? If they're like, no, literally take a softball and throw it at them and watch them try to catch. If they can track a ball into their hand like a normal human, they're probably okay, and maybe they didn't like that sport. If you watch their head and their hand, at the last minute, if they turn their head away and they almost swat at the ball, that tells you they've got a visual tracking issue. They're switching to peripheral vision at the last second to try to figure out where the implement is, because peripheral vision is much better at high-speed movement, but it's horribly inaccurate.
That's
that's like a red flag.
Coaches and...
Oh, for kids it's huge because there's a lot of kids who have eye issues. They'll pass what's called a visual acuity test, right? So look at the number 42, like, do you need glasses or not? That's measuring how well you can accurately see things. That's not telling you anything about how stuff moves in space. So there's a lot of kids, not a lot, but a fair amount, that have these developmental issues that are undiagnosed. They grow up to be parents, and they start having weird, like, nervous system stuff that goes on. And so that's like a hallmark. So even a lot of the kids that are parents I see now, I'm like, we'll just, in my living room, be like, hey, just throw this ball and catch it. And every once in a while, you'll see them normal, or you'll see them just this horrible, weird-looking motions. And anyone can look at it and go, that's fucked up. Like, that's not normal.
Yeah. Oh, and they've probably experienced something their whole life like you did, where you just thought...
They don't know.
Where people just thought, well, they're just not good at sports.
Right, and as an adult,
you just
could be drift away from it. Yeah.
Yeah, but which is just repetition, maybe more than anything.
Yeah.
Like actually getting better at it, but it could just be the fact. Yeah. So I coach high school football.
Oh, nice.
So that's a cool thing for me to think about and like take for some of the younger players that are coming in and maybe never played before. And if they are struggling, it's not just because, there might be something else underneath there.
Yeah. Something Dr. Cobb from Z-Health said to me is that for younger kids, it is actually not natural for them to be unathletic. He's like, you'll definitely have kids who are higher, you'll definitely have kids that are lower, but pretty much all kids should have some base level of athleticism. If they don't, or they're severely behind, then there's something with their neurology that's wonky. And I found that that's almost entirely true now. Again, you will see some kids now who just from developmental issues and video games and some other stuff that gets a little bit distorted. but I find that that's generally true. If like Johnny gets hit in the face with the ball all the time, I can guarantee there's something wrong with how his brain is mapping moving objects.
I've never thought of that, and I've actually never heard of that. So
Yeah.
This is awesome. Like, okay, so a quick note off of that, side note, because you just brought it up, is so how do you feel about video games?
It's like all things. Like I think they can be useful. So there's some research showing that like hand-eye coordination with video games is potentially better. Now, I would argue that's probably only in that environment, though, and how, like, if you go into a lab, a lot of times that's how they measure it, right? Computer, press a button, different types of things. In someone who has normal development, it's probably not going to be an issue. Although I do get worried because video games now, which is the reason why I don't play any of them, because I would literally play video games like 10 hours a day and get nothing done. By definition, they are designed to be addictive, per se, my little air quotes. But the more people can play them, they can get through the game, they buy the next game. So it is very consumer type driven thing where I think it's easy for kids, especially if they're not good at athletics, to get easy wins playing video games because it's a different thing. It's a two-dimensional reaction type thing. You're not dealing in 3D space. So I do get worried that kids will gravitate towards that, especially kids who probably should get more movement anyway, because they're going to be a little bit better at it. And they're going to use that as a substitute for, just going outside, doing gymnastics, just doing skipping, just doing, you talk to people who coach a lot of younger athletes now, and I've seen this in my own practice, just basic running skills, skipping, like just basic human movements, kids nowadays are not very good at it. I think a lot of that is just not having direct practice, and that gets into whole, development phases and critical windows and all this kind of stuff of just how you develop. If you look back at like what the Russians did, so a lot of people are like, well, you have to have kids specialize early. Well, the Russians showed years and decades ago that the only two sports that was beneficial for, if I remember right, was gymnastics and figure skating. And that was because the body weight and size was so dependent that you had to max out at a certain small size, so you needed more specific prep before that. But I think for all other sports, they would have them do gymnastics, they'd have them do tumbling, they would have all these different periods they would do more aerobic training during this particular time period, even though their goal was just to develop Olympians. Like, they didn't really care about holistic humans. Unfortunately, they just wanted to dominate everyone else in purely Olympic sports, and even for that purpose only, they found having a wider base of just human movements was beneficial. So I think we're losing all of that now, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's a good point. One, and with that too, I mean, it's probably the feeling of a lot of those kids. They feel like they suck at those basic fitness things, right?
You don't want to do stuff you suck at.
Exactly.
That's no fun.
Yeah. No. When, we could even tell them like, hey, but you probably weren't always great at that video game. You probably sucked.
Right.
Probably lost at that level or whatever. You didn't know how to use that gun or how to beat that boss. I'm not a video game guy either, but
that all sounds good to me. I have no idea.
Yeah, so but you probably, there's probably some relation to where you're like, well, you had to get reps at playing the video game and get better. So it's like, no different with skipping, no different with anything with fitness, right? So it's like, why don't we just go get some reps and just see what happens?
Yeah, it's like clients who come in who are like, you have them do a squat and they're like, oh my God, my squat's so bad. I'm like, okay, have you ever done like a goblet squat before? No. Well, of course you're going to suck. Like, the first rep's always going to suck. It's anything new, you're just going to suck at it. I should be better at this. Like, why should you be better? You've never done this thing before, so the first rep is a worst rep. And that's okay. Just start there and get better.
So what has made you just... What I talk about a lot is simplifying things, and just bringing it to digestible, areas. And I know you're really known for like the flexible philosophy, right? Like flexible methods, right? So what got you into that realm of being all about like flexible? And what does flexible even mean, I guess, to you?
Yeah, I ended up there because a lot of the super rigid stuff I did with clients just didn't work well. Because initially when you start in the industry, at least when I started, I was like, oh, I just need knowledge, right? I just need to know. And if I just know all the things, I'll tell the client, and the client will do all the things, right? This is what I thought going into it, right? But everyone's like laughing. And like the first client I had in person, I remember we're talking about nutrition, and he's like, and I'm like, okay. and just write down what you ate for 3 days. Cool. Comes in, shows it to me. I'm like, oh, so at one meal you're eating an entire sleeve of Oreos. Cool, okay. And I'm thinking to my brain, this is easy. I'm like, all right, bro, no Oreos. He's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I'm like, look at all the calories in here, calories in, calories out. All right, cool, got it. Comes back next week. Still eating a sleeve of Oreos every day. And this goes on for like 4 weeks. And now he's eating even more Oreos than he's ever eaten before. We had the same discussion. We're like, yeah, you're going to give up the Oreos. Oh, yeah, I was going to do that, but this and that happened, whatever. And then eventually I realized that I had another client, the exact same thing happen. And then I realized, I'm like, oh, shit. Like how, one, I shouldn't have been an exercise physiologist. I should have been a damn psychologist. Because none of this has anything to do with what I know. It's getting people to do stuff that's better. And then two, I went back and started looking at neurobiology classes. So I actually ended up taking a whole bunch of neurobiology. And I'm like, oh, every time I say, don't think of a pink elephant, like, what did you think of? You thought of a pink elephant, right? Even though I said, don't think of the pink elephant, right? Because the human brain thinks visually. So if I ask you, like, how big are the windows in your living room? What would you say?
In relation to what?
Exactly. You're going to think of yourself standing there, and you're going to think, how big are the windows in relation to something else? You're going to have this visual picture of your living room, and you're going to kind of guess, oh, okay, yeah, they're about 2 by 4 feet. It's not a computer. You don't have a little fact in there that says, oh, my windows are exactly 2.4 by 3.4. So we're always processing visually. So every time I'm berating this poor bastard about his Oreos, he's just literally thinking Oreos. But he cognitively understands that he shouldn't do that, but subconsciously I'm making him think about Oreos all the time. And once I realized this, I was like, oh shit, I'm an idiot. So then like week 7, I'm like, all right, here's the deal. I don't give a shit how many Oreos you eat. He's like, what? I'm like, aha, the caveat is, you have to have 40 grams of protein before you have any Oreos. He's like, can you do that? He's like, yep. And he's like, you don't care how many Oreos I have. I'm like, nope. As long as you had 40 grams of protein, we show him what that looks like, how to make it, go through all the steps. Dude. And he's like, oh, cool, okay. Comes back, he's only eating half a sleeve of Oreos. And I'm like, do you feel better? He's like, yeah. And then I realized he doesn't have all the negative thoughts that are attached to it because he's like, I knew I shouldn't be doing this, but yet I'm still doing it. So then he feels like a failure because he paid me a lot of money and I'm telling him the thing to do and I'm emphasizing this thing. He's not able to execute it. So he feels worse about the whole process. Or now he's like, oh yeah, now I ended up losing a pound this week. Oh, cool. And that's when I realized I'm like, one, it doesn't matter how much you know. Like, yes, you need to know right stuff. Like if I told him, well, just keep eating Oreos or replace it with Skittles or something, that's not going to work. But you have to understand the psychology of enough to get them to do a better action. So it's not just knowledge, it's actually applied knowledge. You have to know what it is to do, and then you have to figure out how do you get that implementation. And I just realized that every time I was more rigid, like shit just didn't work nearly as well. If I gave people more options or more freedom, and I started looking in the research on, flexible dieting approaches and nutrition and everything else, everything started working better, right? And I think there's something as a human, it's a weird thing where you're paying someone for their advice and you want their advice, but you also want to feel like you have some autonomy in the process too. So I believe by having a flexible approach, you can guide someone in a better path, but they're still allowing freedom to weave. And the reality is that's what's going to happen when they go out in the real world when you release them from whatever nutrition coaching program. They're going to have to operate in the real world and have some flexibility. So the analogy I use with clients is, okay, imagine we're going to go bowling. And the standard approach is if you've never bowled before, I'm going to be your coach, and I'm going to yell at you and just keep bowling strikes. I'm going to be pissed when you don't keep bowling fucking strikes all the time. And you're going to be like, this is insane. Like, I've never done bowling before. Like, but I understand that I'm supposed to be better at this thing. Versus, what if we put those little bumpers in the alley and we allow you to just weave down the alley and just knock over a few pins, right? And your goal as a coach is to get them to knock more pins down and keep them on this lane, not like 7 lanes down in like a bowling alley across town or whatever, right? Your job is to allow them to weave, but put some parameters, put some constraints on it so that they can actually start to be successful. And then over time, give them better instructions. They have more reps. Okay, you take out the little things in the gutters, and they get better over time. So you're allowing them that freedom, that variability to operate, and that will also, I think, serve them better long term, in addition to making them feel successful along the way.
How do you find your parameters per different client? Like, how have you found that feel with each person to be like, this is where I need to be strict, this is where I can be lenient, and like, did you have some fail stories that like led to you finding those?
Oh yeah, like when I started, like I said, I thought everything was just about information, and that you just get mad at them if they don't do what you're supposed to do, which doesn't work real well, shocker. And then I almost went the other direction, where it was like I was probably like too lenient, because I had lost some clients doing that approach. So I probably went like too far the other direction and went, oh, it's okay, everything will be fine. And then, Johnny, whoever you hired 3 months later, hasn't lost any weight, and he fires you because you were ineffective. And the reality was, oh yeah, I kind of let him lead me. And so now I try to think of, okay, here's the thing we're going to do. So one of the things I do with the Flex Diet Cert is the old motivational interviewing, right? Just boring as sin book to read. It is ungodly boring, but if you were to read one book for psychology to get people to take action, like just go read the original motivational interviewing book. It's $2 on Amazon or something. It is boring as hell. But one of the big things I took away from it was, and John Berardi in Precision Nutrition talks about this a lot too, is just give people an option. So we'll say, okay, I want to focus on protein. So I'm going to say, hey, here, what do you think about, let's have 30 grams of protein within 30 minutes in the morning, or if you like math, let's have you have, 4 meals at around 40 grams of protein. Like, rate those on a 1 to 10 scale. 1 being like the worst possible thing. You'd rather be chased through the woods with like a bear with razor blades. 10 being you're actually insulted that I asked you this because it's so easy, you did it all last week. And you look for like 8 or 9 or 10. So if they say, 4 meals right away at 40 grams, it's like a 5. I know it's a little bit too much, but like, 30 grams within 30 minutes, yeah, that's like an 8. I can definitely do that. Cool. So now you gave them an option within the constraints. They agreed to the one thing that they're going to do, and then you just measure compliance for that for, say, 1 to 2 to 3 weeks.
The options idea is cool.
So that was the biggest thing when I designed the Flex Diet Cert was, I'm not against people counting macros or macro-based programs at all. And for some people that works really well. But what I noticed in my practice was habit stuff for most people works better. But the problem with the habit stuff was, how do you tell them what to do? So if you're a coach, like there's 8 bazillion different habits you could figure out. Like, where the hell do you start? And so initially, like I said, it was all just physiology. Like, I'll go read all the literature, and this based on physiology is the thing. And then I realized, I had lots of conversations with clients about sleep. And all this research was coming out about sleep, and look at how detrimental it is for everything. But you've probably had these conversations with your clients, and at the end of the day, it comes down to this value judgment of, I don't have any more room in my schedule, I'm not putting my kids up for adoption, I'm not changing my job, I'm still driving, you want me to train every day for an hour, I watch Netflix with my spouse at night for 2 hours, and you're telling me not to do that and go to bed. Kind of, yeah. And they're like, screw you, this is the worst idea I've ever heard in my life. And then I would have arguments about clients, and I'd try showing them more research and trying to explain to them why this is important, and it didn't go anywhere. And so I realized that the psychology of how they can change matters almost as much as the physiology. So I came up with something I just called coaching leverage, which is the physiologic effect times the client's ability to actually change. So for protein, well, there's lots of good reasons to have more protein. Like out of 1 through 10 scale, that's probably like a 9. Like client's ability to add more protein, it's typically like an 8 or a 9. Like they're usually shocked. Like, hey, you want me to eat more of something to lose weight? Yes. Okay, that sounds good. Compared to sleep, physiologically, sleep's maybe a 9, maybe just as high. Client's ability to change, like a 1 or a 2. It's dog shit, right? Especially within a short period of time. So the coaching leverage on sleep turns out of the 8 interventions is dead last, and then protein is number 1. And then I realized myself, I was trying to have all these arguments about sleep going nowhere, like kind of using up time and with the client versus, I should just rig the system in their favor. Like they were eating 40 grams of protein a day anyway, so let's just start there and then they can get more leverage there. So I set it up as a leverage-based system, And then within that, so module 1 would say, hey, I consider you should start with protein with your clients. Cool. And then there's like 5 options of protein. You have them rate it on a 1 to 10 scale. They do the one they rate the highest, and you just track their compliance, and then you just kind of walk them through the system.
So protein's at the top, sleep's at the bottom. What are the 8?
So the 8 would be protein, fats, carbohydrates, macronutrients, of course.
Got it.
Micronutrition, NEAT, so walking, fasting, exercise, and sleep.
Got it. So exercise is right there close to dead last.
Those aren't the order.
I got it.
Yeah, so the actual order, if I remember right, would be protein. Fasting came out number 2, which I was shocked. Because I was like, whoa, wait a minute. But I realized that the implementation of it, once they understand it, was pretty easy.
Yeah.
So like, okay, I want you to not eat for 20 hours on Tuesday. What can I have? Water? Anything else? Nope. Coffee? Okay, yeah. Anything without calories? Fine. So the implementation of it was pretty good, and obviously it's a way of just slicing 1 day's calories out of a week.
There's a lot of intrigue there too. A lot of people are intrigued with fasting.
And I think that has part of it to do with too. Like if I would have ran this, I think 15 years ago, fasting probably wouldn't have even made the list.
No.
But because everyone I proposed it to, they were kind of like down for the idea.
Yeah.
So there is kind of values and trends over time too.
Oh, that's cool. I interrupted you. Sorry.
That's okay.
I was just like, because that was just a thought I was having. Because I have so many clients that ask me like, "What do you think about fasting?" I'm like, I don't know. What do you think about what do you want to know about fasting? Like, what are you interested in fasting for? So
Yeah.
I was curious.
And when the first fast I ever did was from Brad Pilon's book, Eat, Stop, Eat, when it first came out. And I remember a buddy of mine was telling me, he's like, yeah, I did this fasting thing and I started losing weight. And I was like, what? Fasting? You idiot. You're going to lose all your muscle. It's all going to fall off your body. You don't have muscle protein synthetic response for blah, 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 blah. And I just yeah. And then at the same time, Brad came out with his book. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to look at this. I'm going to do a bunch of research. And my thought was I'm trying to disprove why this was a good idea. And at the end of the day, I came away with, oh, maybe it's not such a bad idea. Like, you're definitely not going to be completely anabolic during a fasting day. Of course not. But if that's 1 day per week out of 7, and you can slice out a whole bunch of calories, cool. So idiot me goes, I've ate every 2 to 3 hours. Let me go try to do a 24-hour fast. I was doing some training in Arizona, and I got to like hour 13, and I ran across the street to a Chinese buffet and was there for like 2 hours. Yeah. And I was like, fasting, this is the stupidest idea ever. And then tried again the following week. Same thing happened again. And then I realized I'm like, oh shit, I'm an idiot. Because I tried to go from eating every couple hours while I was awake to going 24 hours. It'd be like somebody coming to my gym who's never deadlifted before and, hey, let's just put 405 on the bar, and if you can't make it, I'm just going to yell at you to try harder. Unless you're Andy Bolton or somebody like that, like his first deadlift I think was 505 or something like that. It's probably not going to move. But you could put 225 on, you could put 95, you could scale it to whatever their current capacity was. So I said, okay, I'm going to take 8 weeks, or 6 to 8 weeks, and then each week you're just going to add another 1 or 2 hours to your fast. So if your fasting day is Tuesday, let's just see, can you do 12 hours overnight, or 10 hours? Cool, great. Next Tuesday, cool, can we add about 1 or 2 hours to that fasting time? Great, let's take the following Tuesday. And what I found was over 6 to 8 weeks, pretty much everyone could do like a 19 to 24 hour fast, like pretty easy. And they weren't like incredibly famished afterwards. They weren't destroying Chinese buffets or, anything like that either.
It can be weird how like fast a day can go by when you're fasting and you don't even, it's like, oh wow, it's already 2 and I'm really not that hungry. I don't know, it's weird when you get acclimated to it, and and some days it's not always the case. You're like, I need some food. I'm gonna fast today. But
yeah, especially if your fatigue is high, you're not slept as well, training volume is high. So it's not something everyone can do, but yeah, like you said, like I was amazed, so then I started stacking my days when I was doing it more often to like my busiest day. Because I'm like, dude, I don't have to stop and eat. This is great.
Totally. Yeah, no, I found it to be really beneficial for me too, actually. I like it. I think it's super cool. What I recently learned at a different coaching conference, it was for football coaching, but they said like, tell players what to do, not what not to do.
100%. Same thing.
That's what you were talking about.
100%.
And I have never.
Because you'll see them screw it up, and they'll feel bad because they're like, "Oh, bro, coach told me not to do this." It's like, even in the NFL, like they'll emphasize the thing not to do. So, I'm a big Vikings fan, right? Vikings had some issues earlier this year with fumbling. So, I don't know whose idea this was. I like most of the staff there, all the people I've been in the facility, they're all super cool. However, this idea was not good. They're like, oh, let's do the thing where we carry the football around and we're trying to make sure to remind you, like, don't fumble. Well, dude, like, it got worse. And then eventually someone in the organization, I think, told them, like, stop doing that. And then, shocker, it got a little bit better. Right? So what are you doing with someone who's, the player himself isn't trying to fumble on purpose. Is it something that needs to be corrected? 100%, absolutely. But telling them, hey, bro, just stop fumbling. Like, they didn't know that? Like, that's your solution?
Yeah.
Like, that's horrible. Because subconsciously, you're telling them the thing that you don't want them to do. You know, so it would be like, let's teach you ball security, or let's practice a drill. Okay, when you're running, the defender's over here. I want you to switch the ball to your opposite arm so it's away from them. Like, give them a skill set, look at the film, see what mistakes they made, tell them what you want them to do differently, and then drill the shit out of that.
Love that, yeah. Ball security drills.
Yeah. I mean, this
Totally.
isn't anything new and revolutionary.
Yeah. To me, the revolutionary thing that you just shared was the options thing. I mean, it seems so elementary, I guess, in nature, but it's not. Just because sometimes you get so caught up in the weeds. Like, I was laughing when you brought it up because I'm like, damn, I have said, like, you know, let's try to not do that as much.
Oh,
'Cause
I've
it just
totally
seems
told
natural.
lots of people that.
And I'm like, dang it. Like, now
Oh,
I'm thinking,
yeah.
like, you said it, I'm like, holy cow, I've been pointing people in the wrong direction. Not in the wrong direction. Like, obviously, I want the same outcome.
Yeah.
But there's different ways to skin the cat.
Yeah.
Dang, dude.
And that gets into the whole external cueing, internal cueing. So if you want really movement stuff, look at my buddy Sean Mishka on, you know, ecological movement variability skills. And so, like, he'll set stuff up for the player to solve a problem. He won't necessarily even tell them what he wants them to do. He'll tell them more the outcome of what he wants them to achieve. And then he'll start putting in constraints in front of them. And because he wants them to problem solve and to figure it out. Instead of like, bro, just go run ladders.
Got it.
You know, because it's like at the highest level, and these are, you know, NFL people, but at a lower level, you can scale that all the way back down. And to me, that just makes so much more sense, right? You're teaching their physiology how to solve those problems, and you're giving them safe reps at a slow speed to practice and acquire those skills.
Bringing the translations to the real life application of game day.
Yeah.
And I think always like comparing those is cool. So how do you do that with, you know, normal fitness health clients of even like talking lifting then, right? So like, because I think some of the cool depictions I've seen is when, like, I've seen somebody, you know, I think I recently saw a video of a guy who's doing like a one leg, you know, squat, and then it showed him in real life, like, you know, squatting down, like bringing his kid into the pool. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That was cool shit. Like, because that makes sense. He's like, yeah, I train for my life, right? So how have you found cool, like, comparisons there with training?
I mean, I think you go back to what is the reason most people are training. So I would argue most people are training. Yeah, do they want better body comp? Sure. Do they want to add some muscle? Yes. Do they want to lose fat? Yes. But most people wanted to transfer to something else, right? And I think we've done, myself included in the past, I'm trying to do better now, a bad job of only doing certain things. And again, you can make an argument for anything, right? So if you're only using machines, I can make an argument that that's better for muscle mass, hypertrophy, metabolic rate, all this stuff. And I think that's great. However, if that's all you ever do with them, I think you're doing them somewhat of a disservice of not preparing them as well as they could for their regular life. So I like doing both. Like, I'll have maybe more of a machine-based day, and then like Dan John's, like a goblet squat. I'm a huge fan of a Zercher squat, so weight across in front of you.
You're a fan of Zerchers?
Well, I hate doing them.
Those are wild.
But they're hard. Because now you put the load, so people don't know a Zercher squat, put a bar in your elbows like this and then squat. Or if you want to make it really hard, have the bar start on the ground. You have to deadlift it, set it on your quads, squat under, put your hands underneath, and then now stand up with it. But to me, that's a lot more functional, air quotes, than anything else. You can then start making those offset. So one of the horrible things I did with clients in person was we would do Zercher carries, like a strongman, and then we would put kettlebells on the end, and we put them on bands. So the kettlebells are moving up and down. You're holding the weight like this, and now you're walking. So now you've got an anterior load that's pulling you forward that you have to resist, and you've got this chaos weight moving on both ends of the spectrum that's trying to pull you off as you're actually walking in gait. Now, again, that's not something you're going to start with Ethel, who's 86 on day one, but it's something that doesn't really have that much load to it, but is more, I think, suited for the real world. And the one I might have told you this yesterday, I have a 100-pound inch replica dumbbell. So it's this big cast dumbbell with a 2 3/8 inch handle. And so my coach, Adam Glass, is like, hey, you should start doing goblet squats with that. I was like, what? Okay, whatever. And if you're doing a squat, like 100 pounds isn't really that heavy for people who train. But this dumbbell, I'm like, oh, fuck, like how do I get it in a goblet squat position, number one? So I had to squat all the way down. The dumbbell would be here. Take your hands like this, curl it up to this position, and then now do a goblet squat with it there. And what you soon realize is that it's so unwieldy and just odd that even like 100 pounds was like very challenging. Not so much from the weight, but from the position of the weight and the fact that it's just this odd-shaped object you can't just hold on to. So I think programming more stuff like that for clients who want transfer to the real world, I think is useful. Again, so everybody in fitness will hear that, and that's like the only thing they'll ever do. Again, I think you can use machines. I think you can use a lot of other stuff, but just make sure that it transfers to what they actually want to be able to do.
Yeah, that's cool. I was thinking, like, so it sounds like the setup, like even just setting up a movement, right, becomes part of the functional fitness aspect of like building ability to translate to real life, right? Because just even the setup of that, because I've thought about that when I've set up like a goblet squat, what you're saying, and I'm like, damn, I wonder if there's an easier way, which is maybe not the right approach to think about things, right? Because like the whole point of lifting is to make it hard.
Yeah.
But I'm like, maybe there's an easier way, but I actually kind of enjoy the fact that it's a challenge and that you're doing it. And yeah, maybe you shouldn't always be looking for the easiest way to set up a movement because, like you're getting better even just by setting up the movement too. Or even like removing and moving plates and stuff like that. I think about that when I'm setting up like hip thrusts and stuff because there's a lot of plates you're moving back and forth. And I'm like, I'm getting better though. Like, this is cool. I'm carrying weight. Like, I'm literally still doing hard shit.
Yeah, and that's my little rule for dudes who do a lot of dumbbell bench presses. You should be able to farmer's walk the dumbbells to your bench, both at the same time. If you can't without straps, in my opinion, you have no point even trying to press them, right? Just because you should be able to hold the load and move it. It's a symmetric load. And if you can't do that, to me, you're missing something that you're trying to make up for somewhere else.
How do you measure like ability? This is something I've thought about a lot because I've carried, decently big dumbbells for myself to like carry over and bench, and I feel confident in the walk, but sometimes it's almost like when you have like a really heavy suitcase and you feel really uncomfortable and you just kind of feel like I can't wait for this walk to be over. Like sometimes the heavier the dumbbell, all of a sudden you get to that, like, so how do you know when you truly have a grip of it and like you're able versus like maybe you're using things that you shouldn't be? Like, I don't know. How have you noticed that for yourself? Like, can't do this, or like, is it just this strain on the back? Because that's also hard to gauge too, because it's like pain versus injury, and I don't know.
I think, I don't know. I've gone around, I don't know how many times on this. I think now most people know. I just don't think they want to admit it to themselves.
Yeah, that's the hard truth that I didn't want to hear.
I think that, and I look back
totally
on myself,
right,
like all the times I've messed myself up, like screwed myself up, I 100% knew better. I just didn't listen to any of the feedback. The feedback was there. I just said, it'll be fine. I did this before. I got away with it. It'll be good. Today it'll be fine. Nope. So I've tried to get better at that now as I get older, because to me, for my goals currently, getting hurt in the gym is like very, very low. I'm not saying it'll never happen, but to me, it's like I'm not pushing it 100%. I'm not getting paid to do it. It's a 100% controlled environment. There's not chaos going around where, if I get injured kiteboarding, I drop out of the sky 20 or 30 feet up and I fuck myself up. I don't want to do that. I'm trying not to do that, but I would still be pissed, but I would be more okay with that injury because I feel like I've signed up for that risk. Or for me personally in the gym, the times I've messed myself up for, it was my own fault. It wasn't like a football game where I got blindsided or some equipment failure or whatever. It was me choosing to do something that I definitely shouldn't have done.
Well, those have been the training sessions that I've enjoyed the most, is when I was in complete control of the movement. Like even looking at the dumbbell bench, something like that, like lifting even like a 50 or a 60 or something, but I just really had a full grip, a grasp, got that depth, got that range of motion. I was explosive. I just felt like I felt in tune with the whole movement. Afterwards, I'm like, that was good shit.
Yeah, but that's quality work, right?
Yeah.
So I would argue most people at the gym are not doing enough quality work first. They're adding volume first.
Yeah.
And one of the ways you can improve that is just movement efficiency. And then like you mentioned also, I'm a huge component of grip strength. Like if you have a better secure hold of the dumbbell, like everything else just works better and feels better. Like you've had those days where you go and you just pick the dumbbells up, you're like, yeah, today's a good day. And I would argue that that's grip strength based. Like if you look at people who had a shoulder injury, like acutely had a right shoulder injury and you measure their grip strength, it plummets overnight. Why? Because your body's trying to protect you from doing anything stupid with your shoulder. If you can't hold on to it, you're probably not going to do anything dumb with it. And again, you could probably override that and still hurt yourself. But I think the reverse is true. If you have a really good, strong grip, everything else above it, generally it's going to feel better and more secure. It's just like having a fancy car and not putting good tires on it. Like whatever your interface with, like your feet and your shoes and the ground, and then your grip if you're using implements, I think those are underutilized or underlooked at areas for performance.
It's cool how our body alerts us too, like what you were mentioning. Like it's
a
really good alert system, huh?
Yeah, and I think there's a time and place for straps and stuff like that. I still use them, but if you're constantly using them all of the time just to do more load, I would argue at some point, yes, you will see more performance, but your risk is also going up because you're overriding some of that natural protective mechanism, especially on like some of your early sets or stuff that is more grip based. But that's my bias too.
Okay. So off topic, but kind of on topic. So how's kiteboarding going?
It's been good. Like we were down in Mexico for 2 weeks. We only got 4 days out, and then down there the wind was pretty light, so I had a bigger kite. And then my timing off waves sucks, and the waves were not super set up. They were nice. They were 3, 4, 5 feet high, not super big. But trying to jump off the wave and hit the timing of the kite and then float. And if you do it right, you'll float and you'll land on the same wave just further down, which was kind of wild, but pretty fun. So I did get my longest distance. So from where I took off to where I landed was 197 feet later, and paradoxically it was on the same wave. So if you did it right, I could take off to my right, go up, and then you just start drifting down this way through the kite. And I literally landed on that same wave as it came down on the other side.
No way.
Yeah.
That's
so that was
cool.
like pretty fun.
What's the difference of kiteboarding and kite surfing?
It's the same thing.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, so kiteboarding, technically you have a kind of a wake surfing like board. There are people who do kite surfing with a surfboard. Like there's a guy out there just shredding stuff like strapless, like no straps, just crazy stuff.
Have you heard of like the Hood River area? Like
yeah,
Columbia
that's where
River
we're planning
Gorge?
to move.
No way, that's where we live.
That's right.
Oh,
That's
I
where
didn't know you
Lalo
lived
lives.
in Hood River.
Yeah, he does.
Oh, he does.
Lalo's
Oh, shit.
I live an hour from Hood, or 45 minutes.
Yeah,
Oh, you said Washington. Never made the connection.
Yeah, so I'm right on because I'm 3 hours south of Seattle, so I'm right on the Columbia River.
Okay.
Yeah, and he lives in the Columbia River
Ah.
Gorge. He's literally in Hood River.
Oh, we've been there many times.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
amazing.
Sweet. It's beautiful, man.
So
and
fun.
big kite surfing.
Oh, yeah. Like they get some crazy wind. I mean, a lot of professionals go there, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Dude,
it's
you're gonna
super
move
fun.
there?
Yeah.
Okay, this is great, man. Cool.
Yeah, we've been there 4, 5, 6 times.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, it's super fun. It's because we looked around at different places, and I mean, Hood River has mountains. It has, kiteboarding, kite surfing, cool coffee shops. Kind of very artsy
Dude,
town.
that's awesome.
There's
That's
really good
Lalo's hometown.
microbrews. It just kind of has everything. And
It's a cool
my
town.
wife grew up in Montana. I grew up in Minnesota. And so the thought of just like we have friends in Texas and Florida, and they're like, "Bro, you got to come down here." And I'm like, I did not want to live here year round. Like it's just something. It's nice to visit. Like we'll be down there for a couple months, but I don't know. Like
It's tough.
It's weird not growing up, like not having seasons, not having winter, not having stuff that changes is just odd.
It is. Getting used to the gray and the dark is
Yeah, the winters can be a little harsh.
And the
but
rain, yeah.
We usually travel in the winter anyway, so
That's cool. So where in Montana did she grow up?
She would grow up in her
messed this up, dude.
Well, it was Ennis, Montana is where she grew up originally.
Okay,
so that's
cool.
probably where she spent most of her years.
Oh, sweet.
And a lot of her relatives are in Bozeman.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, we've been to Bozeman many times in Ennis, and yeah, Bozeman's great.
Yeah.
It's super nice.
Dude, I love Montana, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Man, so we're gonna be neighbors pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
You could go down there and go kite surf.
I will try it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll come with you.
It's fun. It's
Oof.
it's hard to learn, but it's definitely worth it. I mean, it's probably by far the hardest thing I've ever had to learn. And like I said, with some of my vision stuff, like doing jumps is just I would be a foot off the water, and I'm like, I don't know where I am. Like just trying to get used to that displacement took a lot of practice and reps.
I grew up
but it's gotten better.
skateboarding and snowboarding my whole life.
There you go.
So I mean, there's a start, right? I mean, I think
You're probably pretty good with the board.
The water is the ultimate ride. Like it's the ultimate carve, and I haven't spent any time carving. I've surfed twice. You know?
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, that'd be cool. Have you ever?
Windsurf.
Oh yeah, I used to windsurf. Yeah, windsurfing is fun.
It's fun.
Dude,
Yeah.
cool.
The only bad part is once you like your sail go, whatever
Yeah.
you want to call it, it's so hard.
Yeah, oh Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bitch.
Yeah.
That's why I quit. I used to windsurf in Minnesota, and like my rig, I'd have an 8-4 sail, which is like the size of a barn door. And I remember out there, I'm relaxed once. There wasn't much wind, and I'm just like slogging along, barely moving. I'm not planing out. And this is back in like 2007, and I just started kiteboarding then. This guy comes by, only did like a 5-foot jump in front of me, and just tears off. He's like, whoa! Rides off. I'm like, fuck windsurfing on light wind days. I gotta go do that.
Dude, yeah. Well, okay, so we'll wrap this up. Let's just share like where people can follow you and see all your stuff. Like what's your preference for, just emails, Instagram?
Yeah, most of it, like you were saying, most of my content now, 90% is through the email, which I tend to write for 6 days a week. So just go to MikeTNelson.com. There'll be a little tab that says newsletter, so you can get on there for free. And then I do have some stuff on Instagram a little bit, just hit or miss. And I do have a podcast, which is a Flex Diet podcast. Most of it, I'd say, is through the newsletter, and that's been fun. That was about a year and a half ago. I feel like I got a little bored writing, and so I'm like, how crazy can I make this sound but still provide good information? And then I realized again, I'm talking about constraints, removing that constraint or pushing them farther out. It's like, oh, I like the writing process now. So now it's this kind of ever-ending challenge to get good information and hopefully make it usable too.
It's usable, bro. I mean, I told you I love it. Like,
Thank you.
So I'll definitely, I'll share it and shout it out for the emails, because like I told you, it's one of my only. So yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome, brother.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
It's been awesome.